and welcome to the Raw Preview. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by Andy Murray and Adam Nicholas from WhatCulture to preview tonight's Monday Night Raw. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw and SmackDown, pay-per-views, we have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But as I said, I'm joined by Andy and Adam. Raw is tonight. A lot of things to look forward to. We're going to be discussing the future for Sasha Banks, our King of the Ring predictions, of course, some of the matches on for that. But the big news coming out today is, of course, a huge potential announcement on Monday Night Raw tonight. I think we all know what it is, but what do you anticipate is going to be happening tonight on Monday Night Raw, Andy Murray?
I anticipate at the top of the show, very first segment, Triple H in all his ego-stroking glory, coming down to the ring with his little NXT patch thing on his stupid jacket, announcing, finally, after weeks and months of speculation, that NXT is going live on Wednesday night, because Wednesday night is when AEW is starting, and this means war.
Now, in theory, that is a good thing. A lot of people, when we were talking about a potential rival, you know, akin to the Monday Night Wars, it's never going to be the exact same, but akin to that when it comes to AEW, people saying NXT are the perfect brand to go up against them. And whilst it is exciting to have live NXT, potentially even 2 hours of NXT each week on TV, you have to be careful what you wish for here, don't you?
This has got all the potential in the world to be a good thing in terms of, you know, it'd be nice to finally get NXT live. That's the one thing I think is the benefit from maybe this, because sometimes people get lost in already reading the tapings ahead and you don't necessarily tune in. The thing I'm going to lose here is that, obviously, if it's on TV, Vince McMahon is going to be involved and he's going to potentially ruin my favourite wrestling show in the world.
Yeah, Dave Meltzer was talking about this and saying, basically, look, if it's a show on the USA Network produced by WWE, there is no chance in hell that Vince doesn't have his grubby little fingers on it.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's... Let's try and be optimistic here. Optimistic and say it's going to be all right. Honest. Yes, it's going to be weird. It's good. It's exciting for NXT, the brand. If they keep everything the way they have it now, great, fantastic. I have a feeling that's not going to be the case.
Well, yeah, I for one would, if they did NXT TV tapings in the UK, I'd be scrambling for tickets for that, far more so than Raw and SmackDown. But that's the product as it is now. The danger, of course, is it becomes, you know, ECW like we had back in the day. It's a distorted version of what we used to love that's been changed purely in Vince's vision.
I think ECW, WWE ECW is the perfect point of comparison for this, because it's not going to be NXT anymore, I don't think. Vince McMahon knows how to book and present wrestling and promote wrestling one way. It's the way he's been doing it for decades. Of course, if this thing goes on USA, a major TV network, of course he's going to want more of a role in it. And of course he's going to go, hey, Paul, nudge over and take more of a reign on it. You will see sports entertainment trappings seeping into NXT. You will see, we said on the news today, Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans showing up and battering Johnny Gargano in 2 minutes, and people will be upset. You will see wholesale changes to the style of wrestling, despite that style of wrestling being what most people look forward to with this show. The big appeal of NXT is the differentiation from Raw and SmackDown. It's wrestling-centric. It's booked in a similar way to wrestling was back in the 80s, except it's a little bit more, well, quite a lot more soap opera-ish. But that's all going to be worn away. It's going to be, I'm going to play the cynical card here. It's going to be a watered-down version of what it used to be. You're going to see those old faces, but what you're going to see less of are these ground-up developmental projects that make NXT so fun in the first place. Watching people like Bayley coming from nothing, really building up to get in that cathartic moment on TakeOver. You're not going to get that anymore, because TakeOver is going to be Johnny Gargano versus, I don't know, Heath Slater or something. Maybe not Heath Slater, but you know what I mean. It's... The bloom's going to fall off this rose, I think, as soon as it hits the airwave. But I'm absolutely here for the absurdity of the whole thing.
You're one of the biggest proponents of NXT in the office, I think it's fair to say. Is there any cause for optimism? You know, this is Vince. This is Triple H, I should say, baby. We're talking about here. Is there any way that potentially he tempers what Vince McMahon is trying to do with NXT?
There isn't, I don't think. But I don't necessarily. Not for want of trying. I think he'll try. Triple H has obviously got something great going with NXT here. The interesting thing will be we'll finally get, it's like essentially Paul Heyman was really good at hiding people's faults and sort of shining a spotlight on the things they're really good at, which I think happens a lot with NXT. You just maybe don't see or hear about it as much. We know they do a lot of rehearsals of these matches, these excellent takeover matches. There's a lot of them that have been rehearsed to death to the point where it's so good because they get that time, and that's why it's great. On TV, on NXT TV, there's been numerous times where they've had to redo a segment or they've had to redo a finish to a match because the guys messed it up. They're not going to get to do that on live television. This is a case of, well, this brand's so great because it's been so protected, and that I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily. What I'm saying is, though, we'll very quickly find out just how good these talents actually are, because on live TV, you cannot make a mistake.
Well, yeah, I mean, your mind is cast back to the original version of NXT where they just sort of left people out there to die, potentially.
Yeah.
And that was one of the points I wanted to get onto here. Whilst we're all sitting here and saying, is Vince McMahon going to ruin NXT in terms of the fact that he's going to make it this sports entertainment brand, arguably worse than all that, could this really affect WWE's developmental system?
Oh, God, yeah. There's going to be far fewer opportunities for wrestlers to get onto like a televised TV product. Obviously, it's taped at the moment and all that, but like, we're spitballing here, but hey, if all these main roster people come down and so forth, where's the avenue for like an Angel Garza or an Aaliyah or someone to get on television and come in and grow and develop? What about someone like Keith Lee, who hasn't been in a major program since he came in? What about someone like Deonna Purrazzo, who's just been sitting, fanning around in the Performance Center, never making statements? They have no chance whatsoever. Now, WWE at that stage will need a developmental for their developmental, which seems quite ridiculous. Like, the best people like that will have to hope for at the moment, if this comes in, is a spot on an Evolve show. And that is not quite the same thing.
We're often accused of being negative. Is there, on the other side of this, a positive to this, that perhaps if it does change the way NXT is performed or, utilized, that transition from NXT to the main roster may become a little bit easier because they've already been molded in that Vince McMahon?
I think it's funny because recently we haven't seen as frequently people just immediately going up to the main roster, have we? And I guess maybe they've had this in the back of their minds, knowing full well they're going to go out to TV. Perhaps they're not going to put all the Undisputed Era on SmackDown or Raw and have literally a gaping hole on NXT where there's nothing. Same with Johnny Gargano. I would assume that he's been there now. He could probably have left at least a couple of times, almost tried it with Ciampa and didn't quite work out. The thing they've got is that they've got loads of talent on NXT. If they use it right, let's try and do the positive thing. If they use it right and bring the guys who maybe aren't, like they've done with Tyler Breeze, like they've done with Fandango and others who've come back to NXT, Killian Dane, another good example, that's probably a positive. I worry, like Andy says, where's going to be the chance for development? And no one's going to, it's hard enough getting them on a 3-hour show on Raw, these guys, getting them on a 2-hour show on NXT, and you're already down, and then you're bringing other guys who aren't getting on SmackDown and Raw. You're then looking at the fact that we're going to have another 205 Live for the likes of Angel Garza on NXT, like a separate thing where they go, you guys can do this, and we'll have more programming. I don't know. I think it could smother it in a way.
Very quickly, how do you think this is going to affect AEW?
Well, the USA Network thing is significant because all the talk in the lead up to this was that it would be on Fox Sports 1, which is a channel that's available in significantly fewer homes than TNT, which AEW is going to be on. So this is a sterner test for AEW because USA is just a bigger net. Well, it's not a bigger net. It's available in more homes than Fox Sports 1. It's a bigger challenge. However, I think that if Vince McMahon comes in and it becomes this sanitized main roster thing with a couple of your developmental people kind of floating around, I actually think AEW is in a fine position because the audience for AEW is going to be for people who are sick of this main roster product and the trappings and the problems with it.
I was going to say, on Wednesday nights, surely people would get to the point where they're like, right, I've had if you are a fan of both, which I think a lot of people will be to start off with, again, why people are dividing off into teams already is inexplicable
it's
to
mental.
me.
Yeah. It's mental.
But yeah, it strikes me that some people may turn around and say, I've got my WWE fill on Monday and Tuesday. I want an escape on Wednesday. And, old NXT used to provide that. But now, arguably, maybe I'm looking at AEW.
It's a hard ask, and it's an extra hour of wrestling in people's schedules that they have to account for. I know that sounds like nothing, but over the course, especially for us guys, we're covering all the stuff, that's an extra hour on top of loads of stuff. We're going to have AEW as well. The one thing I think is the positive, and if let's just go for this scenario where somehow Vince McMahon allows Triple H to kind of continue in the way he has done and have control and say to him, look, actually, here's your chance to practice with a live show, essentially, because you proved you can do it with NXT, proved you can do it with a live show. The one thing that might bring is you might be able to say to the guys, look, the war is on now. Like, you are the guys who are fighting. The main roster's not going to clash because Monday and Tuesdays aren't a thing. Wednesday is the chance. You guys want to prove you're the best. You want to say this brand is the best. Everyone talks about. It's literally changed from the yellow and black brand to the gold and black brand for this exact reason, because they wanted to promote it as this superior brand. Well, they're going to have to go out and prove it, and that might be the catalyst to say, okay, let's do this.
It's an exciting time, as we always say, to be a wrestling fan, and intriguing to see what they do on Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about some of the other stuff that's going down tonight. Of course, this is the start of the King of the Ring tonight. We've been through and predicted King Corbin in the past.
All hail King Corbin.
We know so far we're getting Cesaro versus Samoa Joe and Cedric Alexander versus Sami Zayn tonight. How do you see those two going?
It's Sami Zayn always loses, so Sami Zayn's obviously getting beat by Cedric. Cedric reportedly in line for a massive push as well, now that Paul Heyman is reportedly a big fan of the fella, which is good news. And Sami, I think his televised win-loss record at the moment is currently 2 wins and 15 losses. Yeah. Doesn't bode well for him. No. I love him, but he's probably getting scamped out. The Cesaro-Joe match is a little harder to predict, I think. Like everyone wants Cesaro to get this monster push at some point in his career. I don't think that's ever coming. I think they might see this as a good opportunity to give Joe a solid win, because he too loses a lot. However, he's someone they like to heat up as like a title challenger every now and then and stuff. So
since the brackets came out, it's built for some fascinating matches. You look over on SmackDown. Ali versus Buddy Murphy is going to be a stellar match. But is it now slightly easier to sort of book how you think it's going to go? Now you look at the brackets and work out how WWE kind of book things. Because like you say, if we're going for Corbin, for example, even just to make the final, then you can't really have Corbin versus Sami Zayn, can you? So you sort of have to work backwards.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you get essentially pick who you think is going to be in the final and then work your way back in terms of the thing. Obviously, taking out of the equation the fact that Baron Corbin's name is on this sheet, which means he's obviously winning the whole thing, just in case you wanted to know. I look forward to playing this back when he does. I think the best part about this whole tournament is obviously, as we've seen already with Raw and SmackDown, and Raw specifically, Heyman obviously has a bunch of guys who he wants to spotlight and help bring into the fray and have them actually get a shot. We've seen it on SmackDown with the likes of Buddy Murphy, we've seen it with Ali, we've seen it with Cedric Alexander. These guys are all now getting a chance. This tournament is perfect, and even little things like the fact that they've paired up Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin there suggests that, I know it sounds stupid, but it suggests they're going to bother adding bits of story into this tournament, not just throw a bunch of guys together. Because how many times have we seen them do that, where the tournament's together, but there's nothing really else comes of it other than the two people in the final, maybe. This could be the perfect opportunity for the hard reset they're looking for, to actually spread out a bunch of branches on some new storylines.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this year's King of the Ring, and like you say, things that come off the back of it. Not just King Corbin, which I think would be a phenomenal gimmick for Baron.
Is there anybody else on there who you'd really want to, like? I know let's just take Baron out of the equation for a minute. There's a couple other guys I think who are probably contenders in there.
I think everyone else, when I look at it, I don't put King before their name. The only other thing I came out with was Drew McIntyre the other day, because I can see WWE doing something like that. But everyone else who I see as potential winners, I see going in a completely different direction. Like an Andrade win, you can see him not walking around with a scepter and a crown and stuff. And
I actually can.
Me too.
Because the thing, like Andrade, like he's a heel and stuff, and he can play it up and all this stuff. But the cool thing about that to me would be, and they won't do this because this isn't stuff WWE do, but Spanish word for king is Rey, R-E-Y. Rey Mysterio, their rivalry. They could do a cool thing with that. They won't, but it'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see how that goes tonight. But one of the big things drawing people in to watch Monday Night Raw tonight, of course, is Sasha Banks. She returned last week, twattered Natalya, and then beat up Becky Lynch in a weird sort of moment where the crowd were cheering for Sasha Banks, despite the fact Natalya was talking about her
wacky world,
late father.
Yeah.
What do you see next for Sasha Banks, potentially tonight and going forward?
Well, for starters, it's just nice to have her back. I think the timing for this couldn't have gone any better. Becky has been desperate for this, and I guess that's why we've had Natalya just kind of holding things down at SummerSlam, because they knew they were going to have this card to play. In terms of Banks, I just want to see her get a chance to literally be the heel Sasha Banks, we all know she can be. We all saw it in NXT. It's where she probably thrives the most, where she produces some of her best work. And I think, to be honest, I'd happily see her take the title off Becky Lynch immediately. Like lay down a massive, honestly, literally as soon as lay down a massive marker and say like she's back. You've all slept on her. She's been away working. She's been to Japan, lads. She's been to Japan. She's even got a T-shirt that basically says, "I've been to Japan. I'm basically a Japanese wrestler now."
I'm inclined to agree with you, and I, for one, cannot wait for tonight just to hear her get on the microphone and air some of those grievances post WrestleMania.
A blistering heel promo would really go a long way. Watch her come back as a babyface now.
I didn't mean to do it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Becky.
Just comes out with Bailey randomly on SmackDown, like, "Hey,
Boss and Hug Connection." Whoa! But yeah, I'd love a blistering heel promo, and just a brawl. Give me a brawl.
Yeah, in terms of Sasha Banks, a lot of people are speculating as to whether this potentially leads into sort of a 4 horsewomen WrestleMania. Could that be on the cards?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've done a great job of rebuilding Bailey. Charlotte is eternal. She's the ace of this whole women's division, if you ask me. Becky has obviously been the hottest star in the company for like 9-10 months, maybe even longer now. It makes all the sense in the world. It's something that a lot of people have been waiting for a lot of time, and I'd love to see it.
I tell you what gimmick I'd like, just out of something really stupid, is if she just kept changing her hair colour every week. And today she's got the blue wig on this time, and then just whips that off, and it's like, "Hey, I've got a green wig on."
Brown.
the T-shirt department would do their nuts, wouldn't they?
I've just literally done that.
Haven't got any mauve hair dye.
One final thing I want to talk about, of course, we're sort of looking ahead to Clash of Champions and anticipating a Braun Strowman-Seth Rollins match for the Universal title based purely on the conclusion to last week's Monday Night Raw. Intriguingly, tonight, he's got a match against AJ Styles for the United States Championship. What do you think of that?
A good match, I guess, if they get a chance to actually have a go at it. I'm sure there's going to be some club-related shenanigans.
He's going to run through them at ringside, isn't he?
I think so. Gallows and Anderson are very good for that. Although saying that, they are the tag champions now. That obviously means something.
Yeah, they'll be protected.
Hey? Of course they will. 100%. Exciting stuff, I guess. I think we'll see the pieces put into play as to how they're going to get to that match, potentially with Seth. And maybe he gets involved tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think you see a sort of a reversal of last week's in terms of Seth potentially? I mean, it feels weird because Braun's such a monster, but Seth potentially coming to his aid tonight?
Yeah, I think if they're going to go with that as the Universal title program for the next pay-per-view, they'll probably... This match, to me, has like non-finish written all over it. It could be really good, obviously, because it's AJ and it's Braun, who's the best like action movie thing in the company. But... it's kind of got to be a non-finish. Like the club the OC look really cool with all the belts and all this stuff. Putting the United States on Braun to have him challenge for the Universal doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I kind of, in my head, foresee this very WWE finish. DQ something or other. Seth comes down, tries to help Braun, but maybe accidentally hits him with the belt or something. And there you have your setup for the thing. And probably with that, you could keep them both babyface and not make Braun a heel. Because I think he's much more interesting as a good guy.
Completely agree. Is there any way that they avoid the WWE's classic heel-face dynamic going into this?
I really hope so. Because they don't need to do it, do they? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Fans in this day and age, we don't necessarily... It's nice when you get two defined heels and faces and really it kind of works that way, but two faces going together, like Rollins, like Strowman, you're not going to care as long as they put on an absolute killer match, which Braun can do, Rollins can do. It's a clash in the two styles, no puns intended, that could actually really work. So Seth works well with the likes of... With Brock, he's definitely worked well with Braun in the past and actually getting a solid... I'd like to see Rollins continue this by having... it's about time you picked yourself up and started having some good matches again. So, that was a start against Brock Lesnar. Yeah. I'd like to see it continue with Strowman.
We should mention a good promo from Rollins last week. Just to continue, because we were really worried post SummerSlam. Finally...
Still don't like him.
No, finally...
Still falling out with him.
He's a dork.
Still falling out with him.
With this huge announcement tonight, you mentioned Triple H. Do we see Vince tonight?
I think there's a strong chance. The thing is, it's Paul. I almost called him Paul. It's Triple H's pet project. But I think Vince might let his son-in-law have the spotlight here before he snatches creative control away from him.
Is he just going to be the...
Is it going to be him or Stephanie? Is Stephanie going to run it down?
God.
Because Vince might take a backseat, but Stephanie McMahon probably won't.
How do you feel about Stephanie McMahon burying Shayna Baszler in the first episode of NXT on USA? Because that's what's going to happen. Can't wait.
Steph like brings Triple H to the ring and goes like, "Go on, tell them the news. Go on,
you little sausage. Hey.
He's like
Come on,
putting
Paul.
his foot into the floor,
Yeah.
like, "I don't want to tell them. I'm embarrassed.
Come on, Mister.
Come on, Mr. Suit.
Mr. McMahon.
Hey.
Come on.
Come on, buddy."
Hey.
I hate my life.
Yeah.
If they do that tonight, I'll be really pissed off. Anyway, let us know your thoughts ahead of tonight's Monday Night Raw in the comments section below or on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. In fact, watch there. Follow all three of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for haven't got one. What's on the back wall?
Haven't got one. It stands for haven't got one.
It's on the wall. It's on the wall.
You can follow Adam Nicholas at.
I don't have a gimmick, but it's Adam Nicholas. There you go. That'll do.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. You can follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. And as I said, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling for daily wrestling podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. My thanks to Andy Murray and to Adam Nicholas. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
What's a heap?